Hi everyone, and welcome to the book Refuge. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about authors that I wish would write more. So a couple of these will be, everybody says them, but a couple of them will be kind of personal to me, and maybe they're even authors that are still writing. Some of these authors, well, one of them specifically is a newer author, and I just can't wait for her to write more. But I have 7 authors here who I just need more of their works, and some of them aren't writing anymore, and some of them are writing, but they're not writing in the category I want them to write in because they have gone down a different rabbit trail and they're writing books down there, and I want them to come back to other series that I really loved. So I'm gonna just go ahead and start this out with someone that may be controversial to you guys, but I really, really love them. And so for me, that is Stephenie Meyer. So Stephenie Meyer, so many of us on Booktube, I think we credit our love of books now to Stephenie Meyer, and maybe you don't, that's totally fine. But for me, I was always reading before then. I've always been a reader since I was super young. As soon as I could read on my own, I was reading and asking to go to the library, and I needed books all the time. But I never got into the genres I was into or met the characters that I love so much if it wasn't for her. And I really, really love that. And though I don't want her to write anymore like Twilight, and I mean, who could? Anything she would try to write like that would just not seem like it. But I would love for her to continue the Host series that was talked about when it first came out, and then nothing ever happened with it. I would love for her to write more, maybe like her thriller, The Chemist. I love The Chemist. I don't really enjoy that kind of Jason Bourne, thriller, political, run from the god. I don't like that. I love The Chemist because it has elements that I enjoy so much in books in that series. And I just really wish that she would give herself a chance, or, look away from her piles of money and write some more books, because I've loved everything she's written, and I would really like to see what else she could do. I think it would be amazing. But I mean, Stephenie Meyer is going to be rich until she dies. So if nothing speaks to her, I guess nothing speaks to her. But I would really, really like that. Next, I have to mention Edith Patel, who wrote my favorite book of all time. Now, the thing I'll say about this is Edith Patel recently did write another book. At the end of 2018, she wrote West, which was a sequel to East, which broke my heart because it was a horrible rehash of, I just can't. We won't. I did a rant review of that when it came out, and I was so disappointed and heartbroken. And it hurts me that when I suggest my favorite book of all time, I have to strongly warn people, only read this book. It is complete in and of itself. It doesn't need anything else. But I wish she would try something else. She does have a couple other, there was a middle grade duology she also wrote. But I would love her to write something else because I don't love enough middle grade. And my favorite book of all time is a YA, almost middle grade. There's elements that push it more to YA, I understand that. But I would feel very safe giving this to a 6th grader. That's the first time I read it. It's so exciting. So I would really, really love for her to write another book and not try to rehash my favorite story of all time. Next, another author, Christopher Paolini, who does actually have another book coming out. He has one coming out this year that will be a sci-fi, and I'm very excited to give that a go. Christopher Paolini is this special unicorn to me he wrote a story that's very derivative of a lot of other stories, but he also started it at 15, and I have his special edition for it was for the 10th or 15th anniversary special edition of Aragon, and he has a lot of notes in the back of how his parents and him built this world, and how they helped him with concepts and just did whatever they could to fuel his creativity. And I think that's amazing. And I mean, of course, also I would like another book in the Inheritance series, which may or may not come someday. The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm was a really awesome setup of potential new things. And I mean, the amount of words he put out at such a young age, I can understand, but also I'm very excited for his new book. Also, I would love to see what else he can do because it's been a long time. I think we're at 7 or 8 years since one of his books has come out, and I just want there to be more. I need there to be more. Next, I have Christina Shore, who wrote one of my other favorite books of all time. There's a pattern, as you can see. She wrote the Graceling saga series. These are books, Fire, Graceling, and Bitterblue, that all take place in the same world, though at different times. And Graceling, Katza, she's one of my favorite heroines. She's unlike anyone else I've ever read because she is such a weird amalgamation of like shyness yet boldness, yet I could snap your neck in a second. Just all these things mixed together. And I didn't love the last book in the series. I really didn't like Bitterblue very much, but I really loved how she built a world and what she did. So whether she wrote another book within this world or she wrote me something else, I would really like it. I know she also wrote one called Jane Unlimited, but it was like a magical realism mixed with like some weird, and I'm not into those genres at all. So it just was not for me, but I would love to read something else she's written. Then I have Sherry Thomas, who most of you probably don't know who this one is. Sherry Thomas wrote the Elemental trilogy, which is so good. The first one is called The Burning Sky, and it's about this prince named, I think it's Tobias. I literally can't, my mind just blanked. Maybe it's Tiberius. And this girl named Isolde, and she has lightning powers. And this prince, it was prophesied that he needs to find the one with lightning magic and train them up because they're the only one who can defeat this great evil in their time. And he's always been told that this was a male. And when he goes there and finds Isolde, he realizes it's a woman, and he was not prepared for it to be a woman. And not because he's sexist or any of those things, but he has a very specific cover story planned for this man, and it's a woman, because he's going to take this man undercover with him to boarding school, because this is set in the real world mixed with, there's also a magical realm. And so he was going to take this mage undercover with him. Why am I explaining this book instead of saying that I want more? Wow, we need to stop. Whoa, hold up. You should read that series. It's amazing. My point being, I was so excited to talk about that. That's funny. Sherry Thomas wrote this amazing world. I love that trilogy. I've reread it a couple times. I can't wait to reread it again. The audiobooks, on point. And I know she has an adult series that's called like the Lady Sherlock series. Not super interested in that. I don't really like mysteries and things like that too much, but I would love for her to write another YA fantasy trilogy or something, because it's some of my favorite YA, and it was so underrated when it came out. Loved it so much. Next, I have Mindy Arnett, who wrote Onyx and Ivory and Shadow and Flame. She also has this Polaris duology, and I didn't ever try the Polaris books because they were a sci-fi space, and I wasn't ready for that at the time. It was before I had read like Illuminae and not Starsight, but the first one, or more of like the sci-fi things that I like now. I think I would like it now, but I really loved her Onyx and Ivory duology. I think it was called like the Iron and Steel duology or something like that. But I loved it so much, and I can't wait to see what else she would write. She has kind of like this girl in there who can speak to animals, and I really love when there's like animal familiars and people that we can talk to. So I'd really love to read more by her. And then the last one I have on here is Julie Berry. Julie Berry wrote this beautiful book called The Lovely War. And this had gods and goddesses and things happening in World War I, and it was heartbreaking and it was beautiful, and I loved it so much. My sister just read this book recently and loved it as well. I don't usually like historical fiction this way. I like to be historical romance or like historical fantasy or something like that going on. Even though I love history, I just think it's pretty depressing. And so I like it mixed in with something that either changes it a little bit or makes it a little more fun to take on, just so I'm not dying in the depression of it all, if that makes sense. And Julie Berry was able to take some of the most painful and heartbreaking times and give it a spin of hope and give it a spin of beauty that I just can't describe in another way. And it really reminds me of like 1917, which is a beautiful film you should all see if you have the time. And I just adore her, and I can't wait for her to write more. It's been over a year almost a year since The Lovely War came out, so I would love for her to have more things coming out. But that was her debut novel, and if that's what she can do with a debut, like, holy shit balls, she's gonna be amazing. So there you go. There was my ramblings. There is 7 authors that I want to read more from. Some of them I think it's highly likely I will, and some who knows if we'll ever get it. Who are the authors you would like to read more of who haven't like written in a while? There are plenty of authors that we will probably want more from, but it is always coming, like Diana Gabaldon. She's always working on it. And Brandon Sanderson, he's always working on it. And Jay Kristoff, he's always working on it. Those are more authors where I have like their books specifically that I want. These are all people where, besides Christopher Paolini, they don't have another book on their list to come out, and who knows if they ever will. And it's hard for me. But thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified when I upload. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.